Well, hello and good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us for another installment of our Executive Insights on Leadership webinar series here for the year 2019. It is with great pleasure and honor to have Susie Smibert join us today, and I'm going to introduce her in just a moment. But just for everyone who's dialing in and who consistently dials in month over month and listens in to our executives and participates in the conversation, you know the routine. Feel free to use the WebEx chat feature to raise questions. I will help to navigate those questions and help with the overall process for this webinar. And again, thank you for joining in today and taking some time out of your busy schedules. It's great to have you with us and participating in this leadership webinar where we're going to learn from executives. And in this case, for this month, it's with Susie Smibert. And for those of you that are new to our webinar, this is Tim Raschulte. I'm the CEO of the Professional Development Academy, and it's an honor to have you join us and participate in this program. And as mentioned, feel free to use the WebEx chat feature to raise questions, and we will moderate those questions with Susie as we go through the hour here together. And if anyone does have any technical issues, feel free to, again, use the chat box. And we've got individuals, Alicia is monitoring that, and as will I throughout the hour that we have here together for this Executive Insights on Leadership. With that, let me introduce Susie and get into our conversation. I met Susie a number of years ago now. I think it was in the fall of 2014, so about 5 years ago in New York. And at that time, she was the Global Manager of Information Security at Agrium. And Susie was kind enough to provide some interview data for us for our Professional Development Academy, specifically for our cybersecurity leadership program. And I know many of you who are dialed in right now have been through our leadership program, both our cybersecurity program as well as our High Performance Leadership Academy. And you've seen Susie in the videos providing thought leadership relative to the topics that we cover in that program. Since Agrium, Susie has moved on to the great organization of Finning International, where she serves as the Global Director of Enterprise Architecture and is the Chief Information Security Officer there. Within that role, she and her team oversee the vision and the strategy and all things relative to security, making sure that not only the data are secure for Finning and their ecosystem partners, but also that the risks relative to the people, as well as, and importantly, their employees and their customers are protected. All the assets of Finning International in this case. And so, again, Susie, thank you so much for taking time and being with us today. Thank you for your long time friendship and thought leadership and being so gracious with your time and providing insights for our Academy and continuing to provide insights now here as part of our webinar this morning. It's great to have you with us, and I've already got a couple questions ahead of this session for you that I want to ask, but I'll turn it over to you, Susie, for any opening comments or reflections relative to this webinar on your Executive Insights on Leadership.
Thanks, Jim. It's a pleasure being here. I mean, I can't believe it's over 5 years now that I've been involved with the PDA and first met you in New York. Time flies a lot, and this program is just getting better every year. So I'm really excited to still be a participant and hopefully provide leadership or insights and nuggets of knowledge for all of the students that come through. I thought maybe, thanks, you've done a good job with the introductions. I have a fantastic team and a really cool role. But if you'd allow me, I'd spend a few minutes to explain what Finning is. It's not super known outside of Canada, so I thought maybe I'd give a very brief overview of who we are and what we do and how it's relevant that I lead the team here. And I see some of my team members are on the call, given they are doing the program with the PDA, so they can keep me in check if they don't. If you don't trust me. So essentially, over 85 years old company. We are the world's largest dealer of Caterpillar. I'm convinced everybody on the phone understands and know CAT, but they might not know that Caterpillar never sells direct. They only sell through dealers. And Finning is the world's largest. We're in North America, South America, UK and Ireland, and growing at a very fast pace and going through massive transformation as an organization to harvest data of all those connected assets. So it's been very challenging, fast paced, and a lot of things to learn to go from chemicals, ag business to the heavy industrial and giant mining trucks. But it's been a fantastic nearly 5 years now that I've been at Spinning, enjoying it thoroughly and very excited to be here this morning.
Yeah, thank you for that, Susie. It is great. I suspect, probably like many folks on the call today, we love to see the big rigs that Caterpillar produces and the value that they provide in the ag business, as well as just for business on a global scale. And so we're just always fascinated by the products that are created. There's obviously a significant business acumen that goes in, not just technology-wise, but partnership-wise and others. One of the things that I know is really important, and you just described it here, it's one thing to be extremely knowledgeable and savvy from a technical perspective within a cyber role. But the way you just described, Caterpillar, it's as equally, maybe if not more so, to really understand the business that you're in to be an effective leader from a cyber perspective. Can you speak, Susie, a little bit about, how important is it to really truly understand the business as a cybersecurity leader, not just the technical, aspect of cyber? And then how did you gain that knowledge? How does one, as we're thinking about moving up the ranks, maybe to become a security officer at an organization someday, how do we best go about navigating the way to truly understand the business and how to best provide value relative to that business, not just from a technical perspective, but from a business perspective?
That's really close to my heart and something I keep trying to evangelize every time I have the opportunity to talk. Being business first is what's going to get a leader in cybersecurity successful. If you don't understand the business you are in, if you can't articulate what drives it, why do you exist, why does the company moves in a certain way, you'll never be able to appropriately address the risk that your organization and its people are facing. Being a technically savvy person is going to get you to middle management, potentially, maybe a director of a very specific product line in your organization. But to really earn that C in front of the title, you've got to be business savvy and acumen. In my case, I've got an MBA, and it helped me a lot. But an MBA is not a prerequisite and required in every organization, in every industry. There is so many ways to familiarize yourself with your business and understand what they do that doesn't require you to make the financial and time investment of going through an MBA program. The quickest and easiest, if you are in a public organization, read the proxy circular, get to know your stock ticker, read your investors, attend your investors call. They're doing it every quarter. Read all of your annual report and try to understand it. You'll need to learn a lot about the financial and all of those EBIT, ROCE, ROIC. What do they mean so that you can be more effective in translating how will every single initiative you do impact your organization from a financial metrics? Because that's going to impact whether or not you get the budget. If you go through fear, you might get budget once, but you won't be able to sustain it. Whereas if you're able to articulate the EBIT margin your initiative is going to be protecting, or how much it's going to protect impact the margin of your organization if you are to invest a couple of $1 million, then you're speaking the language of those that decides. And you don't need the MBA to do that. You can build relationship with your investor relations group to understand what drives your company, get indication of why do we invest the way we do. Get connected with your finance group. They can teach you a lot. They love to talk about what they're doing, even though we all think accountants are dry and daunting and boring. That's the boring stuff you need to learn. And they are going to be helping you understand all of those terminologies, and they can help you build your business case to make them more financially and business savvy, as opposed to technical jargon that you will understand, but your executive might not. Then talk with your legal, your procurement. Go work in the branch. I'm privileged to not be forced to work in the head office. So we've created Center of Excellence in a different town than where we are headquartered. We're headquartered in Vancouver. But I like to sit next to people wearing PPEs because everything we do has an impact on those employees, not necessarily the people that are in the computer every single day. So talking to them on the shop floor, talking to our mechanics, help me understand what are the real challenges they're facing every day. What are the potential pitfalls they're going to fall for in terms of security awareness? And how do we go at helping them be more effective at pushing the business forward faster? If you can do that, you'll progress as a leader in your organization.
A question that just came up based on a comment you made. You had mentioned fear in your description there, Susie, and the question here is one of fear, uncertainty, and doubt. It's very easy for folks in security to use that rather than perhaps business savvy. And the question is, I work in an organization where the culture is accustomed to reacting to fear. And my question is, how can I use other tactics, not fear, to get what I want, but rather actual business rationale to get what I want? Is there a way to transition and transform my culture away from fear, uncertainty, and doubt when it comes to security?
I would approach it by doing linkage. The fear will always be driven by an event or a potential type of threat or whatever is the latest news. If you have an initiative in your organization that you want to put in place to address that type of items, say whether it's a cryptoware or the latest attack that is attacking one of your customers, if you articulate the story of what this is, how could it impact your organization, and you go very fact-based, and then you bring on the initiatives that are potential for your organization to address those types of fear element, and you make it very factual, and you describe the potential impact on a business term, more in terms of risk as opposed to the world is falling apart, and be reasonable. Not every organization needs to go and secure itself to the state of NASA. So when you quantify that risk, be smart about it. There's no point of investing $20 million if the largest impact you're going to get is $5 million. So maybe spending $4 to protect up to 80% of your potential risk is what is business smart. And start small. Evangelize with your own employees so that they are starting to use that language. And then do it with your direct leader if he or she is not customized to operating in that way. And as you get more and more exposure and can get your network broadened, that'll help change your culture. You can't change it all at once. It's going to be one bite at a time. And just do the linkage of why is there fear, but what does it mean for us really? Because in some cases, it means nothing for your organization. You're not the typical target. You're not in the same industry, or you already have the controls and compensating controls in place that would prevent or protect your organization for whatever is in the media. It's just be reasonable and not get too excited about that fear. It's easy to fall prey for it because if your partner or one of your customers has this massive breach that costs them hundreds of thousands of dollars, you'll get attention and you could get extra budget right there and there. But in the long run, which being an executive is the long run game, this is not going to serve you well.
Yeah, one of the things that often comes about, and a question came in that kind of gets to the next question I want to ask, and it's around trusting yourself. The comment in the chat box is, there are so many things to focus attention on these days, especially within cybersecurity, that we can't get to them all clearly. How do we best prioritize, and how do you make sure that you do trust yourself and not start doubting yourself in the directions that you move forward, knowing that you don't have the resources to accomplish everything you want to do, especially all at once? Can you talk a little bit about how you make decisions, Susie, in terms of prioritization and the power of trusting yourself and moving forward with those decisions.
There's a lot of guts that goes in, as well as some experience. If you've been in the industry for some time, there's pattern that emerge, and things you get to experience over and over again that are very similar. I'm a big proponent of fail fast, and I've empowered my team, and I challenge them all the time. I'm going to make a call. I'm going to make it really quick because I won't have all of the data or the time to make a really informed decision. But if it's the wrong one, you guys have to call me out on it. And they do. They do it a lot. It's not just trust yourself, it's trust your team as well. Empower them, allow them to make mistakes, remove obstacles. The higher you progress in the technology ladder or the organization's ladder, the more you'll have to do with less and get people to do stuff for you. If you micromanage, you're never going to survive in cybersecurity. You're going to start drinking and be stressed and not have a personal life and be very unhappy. So go with your guts. You've got the experience that got you there. You know intrinsically what is right or what might be the right path. Never be afraid to fail. Fail fast, apologize, realize what didn't work, and correct course. The worst thing is to trust yourself, but go at it until the end of the world, even though you realize through the process that it's the wrong decision. So you're smart. You're an executive. You're progressing cybersecurity. You've got to stop second guessing, because in a crisis time, second guessing is what's going to get the adversary advantage and create even more problem within the organization. So be decisive and sound confident.
Yeah, that's great advice and insights, and it's very much appreciated. You know, one question that we get often, and we've gotten it again here, especially when we have executives such as yourself, Susie, focused on cybersecurity, and the question is a simple one, but we always love the answers to these questions, and the question is, what keeps you up at night right now?
My 18-month toddler is what keeps me up at night. If I'm being serious, it's my employees and their well-being. Every organization is tasked to do more with less. Every organization has budget constraint. Cybersecurity, it's a lot of things done that is 100% within their control. But most of our work is not 100% within our control, and we need to rely on other teams to get the work done, yet it is our head on the chopping block if things go south. So it can be very stressful. It can drive retention problem, keeping everybody engaged, well thought for, well cared for, trained, developed, up to speed with the newest technology. When I started in cybersecurity, there was a handful of vendors. There's thousands today of vendors in the field. Keeping pace of all of those new vendor, new technology, new way of securing, new risk, it's quite time consuming. It could be an information overload. What keeps me up is how do I enable my team and their team to navigate all of that and stay sane and have a life outside of work, because we do have work that is mission critical, some where health and safety of our employees or the general population is at risk if we don't do things right. But at the end of the day, if our employees are not healthy, happy, engaged, we're going to have a lot more risk. So how do I attract and retain the best team there is in my regions and where I can recruit is what keeps me up at night. Because without them, I am nothing. And without them, the entire organization has a significantly higher risk profile than with all of the technology we could put in place. If there's no human to make sense of it all, we're going to fail. So they keep me awake so that I can make sure they have everything they need to be successful.
That's fantastic. One of the comments that we just got takes our commentary and our questioning onto a global scale, or at least a distributed team scale. And the comment is this. Thank you for the overview of Finning as a company. I was not aware of that detail. The question is, I am a relatively new manager overseeing a fairly distributed team. Do you have any advice to make sure I do maintain a balance in life while not being consumed by the 24-hour schedule of a global team?
Protect your time and set boundaries. So if you have rules, say I'm going to use myself as an example. I leave the office at 4 every day to pick up my child from daycare, and he goes to bed at 7. Everybody know that from 4 to 7, I'm not going to respond to email. I'm going to pick up the phone if it's ringing several times in a row, but I will take a meeting after, or I will respond to email after if it's required, but that time is protected. And I don't make exception. The first exception is what opened the doors to more and more exceptions and flexibility, which then throw you off balance. So it stays relentless into it and enlist the support of your leaders and peers. If one person does it, it takes a little bit of grit and fortitude to push back on the entire organization. But if a few start doing it and focus on work-life balance and outcome as opposed to time on a seat, you can get a lot more results and efficiencies. Being global for us is also a challenge with the various time zone, but it also has a very positive attraction to some of our workforce. We have individuals that come in at 6 in the morning because they love to wake up early and want to avoid traffic at all costs. They leave the office a lot earlier. It can give you some flexibility into your workspace and work style for you and your own team member. You don't have to wait for HR to have formal policies in place to do it. If you trust your employee, you hire adult. I don't hire children. I hire professional adult and I treat them like adult. If they need to work from home or have a different time of working schedule, that's fine. If the outcomes are there, it doesn't matter how much time they spend in front of the computer or where they're doing it from. The world is changing and the talent is global. If we keep focusing on time in the seat and be there within a specific time period, we're going to lose the battle with finding the right individual to drive our organization forward. One step that's really important for me is turn the camera on. We have technology to enable global teams. Turn the camera on when you're on video calls. It's too easy to forget about it and speak in front of a photograph, or not even a photo, because not everybody puts a photo on their Skype or Teams or whatever technology your company is using. Turn that camera on and then you can see some body language. And create a team site, Slack channel, whatever your communication tool is, for water cooler type. And post things about yourself, things about the office, things about your day. Encourage people to start connecting on a personal level. And that will keep your global team engaged. It could be language barrier, where you can help others learn different language if it's a part of your challenge in the organization, or do some translation services. There is plenty of Google Translate is not perfect, but can get the message across if you're trying to connect. But stay engaged. Leverage the technology tools, turn the camera on, and if you make it personal yourself and take that first few steps of posting photo or anything that is random thought, it'll help others open up as well, and you'll keep that global team connected. Do your brown bag lunch, where you lunch and learn all together but virtually.
Yeah, that's great advice. One question too that just came in was, as a leader at the highest level at security for Finning International, you no doubt have and have had mentors growing up that have helped you understand how to be a great leader. Can you share any examples of mentors that you've had or that you currently have, and some key lessons learned over the years that have allowed you to advance to the highest rank of cybersecurity?
I have plenty. I've had mentors, I've had coach and sponsor, and they all serve different purposes. In terms of mentor, I've had fantastic business individual, ruthless as leader, teaching me what I needed to start connecting the dots. I came as a techie, so learning about my stock, learning about my organization, or even the business language was not what was front of mind for me. I thought I could progress by being technical and just do the work, and that didn't work, and I was getting very, very frustrated. So a lot of tough love there really helped me realize the gaps I had and start growing some humility and realizing and self-awareness that I didn't change the organization, and I wouldn't be able to change all of the organization to get a CISO seat and have the seat at the table. If I wanted to get there, I'd have to work on myself. That was the strongest message this individual gave me, is a reality check. And that's not always what you want to hear, but mentors tell you the truth. They don't tell you what you want to hear. I've had mentors that were entry-level employees that are just starting out their career. It's a different demographic, different generation, thinks differently. They want to see the world differently, address risk differently. I needed to get that thought so that I can keep growing as an individual and be more effective as a leader. So I don't always see mentor as a C level position or a director if you're a manager. It doesn't need to be a skip level from you. You can have mentor that are below you, across from you, or above. And it's to seek them out and ask them to tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear. I've been privileged to have sponsor as well, individual. I recall one that hired me, and it was my first director position, I want to say 15 years ago now. And I really didn't think I could do the job. But he believed I could. He believed in me more than I did, and he challenged me. And he put safeguard around me, but it was advocating on my behalf so that I'd be supported by the organization as well. And because of this leader believing in me, I'm where I am today. And I can believe in people that don't believe in themselves because they don't see their potential. And I pay it forward. But mentorship is crucial. Sponsorship is ideal, especially if you're a diversity candidate, whether it is female, different background. The field of cybersecurity is a little bit homogenic, so getting sponsorship helps a lot. And not be afraid to ask people for feedback, but be prepared to hear the real one, not necessarily the how well of a job you're doing and how good you are, because that doesn't push you forward.
Yeah, a couple things came up in that response that I want to follow up on based on some comments that have been provided. And I want to come back to the point that you made about the business mentor that you had, because clearly, that must have been extremely powerful. One, as you described it, but, as we're thinking about it, the business is not in business to have a CISO in place and a cybersecurity team in place, but rather those individuals are in place to help enable the business to be better. Can you talk a little bit about how do you help make sure that the cyber focus of Finning International is focused on enabling the business and not inhibiting it? Because many times we hear about cybersecurity and data security and risk management as means that actually slow businesses down rather than help enable their value. Can you help us understand how you think about the work that you do and the work that your team does as an enablement to Finning and the work that they do as a business, and not slow the innovation down of the business or slow the business in general down relative to what it is that it's trying to accomplish?
Well, no is not a word we love to use in my organization, whether it's Finning or anywhere I've been in the past. It's not part of my value system. Having said that, there are cases where a hard no is going to happen. If anybody's life is at risk, if we are going to be breaking the law and put somebody in jail, then I will say no vehemently and defend the position until people realize what's at stake. Fortunately, this is a very unlikely scenario. I've never had to do it in my career, and I'm knocking on wood that this is not something I will have to ever do. Processes are not meant to slow things down. If processes are followed properly, it actually enables you to go faster. Similar to the analogy many have probably heard, brakes on a car is not to stop you faster. It's allowing you to go faster so that you can brake when you need it. Security is a little bit like that. Security is a lot about marketing, explaining what you're doing and how it is relevant, evangelizing, helping other team and stepping out of what your scope might necessarily be. And one thing we often forget is what's reasonable for the organization. As security professional, we have a tendency to revert to protect all of the doors, lock all of the potential entry point, and go all in with the program and go from a maturity of 0 or very little to a maturity of 4 or 5 and shoot for NASA. It might never be appropriate for the industry and company you work in. So it's that reality check of how much is enough, how much is good enough and when, and also considering the capability of your organization to absorb change. Your technical team might not be able to transform and absorb new processes, new control, new technology at a pace that will enable you to deliver your program and your goals. So you'll have to adapt how many layers of security you put in place on the pace of transformation of your organization, whether it is the workforce or your technical team. You need to align with that risk tolerance of your executive. Somebody who's risk averse in their hobby likely will be risk averse in how to conduct business. Oppositely, if you have an executive that is skydiving every weekend and does, I don't know, downhill mountain biking, jumping over obstacles, there's a good chance they'll have a more risk tolerance in how to conduct business as well, because that's an innate value. It's not something that we adopt only for an organization. Understand that and speak that language when you go to get initiative then. It's that what is reasonable and prudent to do in the context. It's enable the team to speak that language and understand it as well. Is to be very transparent with the priority, the value driver of your company. What are they hoping to do and why? Be transparent about the financial state of the organization, and at time, you will need to have the maturity as a security leader to hold your own team back for the benefit of the broader technology group or organization. There are times where you won't be able to do the next phase of your program because there's root cause problems somewhere else that needs addressing with more urgency. It takes a lot of discipline and self-extraction of what your core is to give it to other and not take it in, even though you might have the ability to get more to better your organization. And that's when you do that, that's when you realize you're a business first and you're not just a cybersecurity professional, because you're doing what's best for the mission or the organization as opposed to what's best for yourself or your own team.
Yeah, that's great. Another, something similar in terms of its relatedness about focusing on the business while also understanding the technical aspects of the need. This question is a little bit more operationally focused, but beyond the organization. It says, I'm trying to get my organization to understand the supply chain need to have security across the entire supply chain, not just within our organization. And I'm struggling with getting my organization to buy into the need to have tabletop exercises and simulations with our partners, not just within our own organization. Do you have any advice or suggestions as to how I can better convince or influence a decision within my leadership team to bring partners to the table so that we are better prepared when an incident will occur?
I don't know the individual that asked the questions or the context of the organizations, but if I was to do an outside review on this, my first gut tells me Perhaps the individual doesn't have the relationship strong enough internally that will allow them to influence. Maybe they are not using the right type of language that helps other in the company understand what's in it for them and why is it important for them as individual and their own function to participate and do the tabletop exercise and any other simulation. So I would approach it with really narrowing down the language that is being used to make it about them, not about you, and how it translates to the organization. And better yet, if your organization has strategic priorities, priority value drivers, or values, how will what you're hoping to achieve support, enhance, or protect those strategic priorities, those values, and how it is aligned with what the organization as a whole is wanting to do. And then I would double down on drinking coffees with all of the individual that needs to participate. I'd seek a champion, someone that gets it and that can advocate and articulate it to their peers why it's important so that they start participating and really start small. I wouldn't go at approaching the relationship with that goal in mind and being so obvious, because then the individual might feel deceitful, might feel that they're being used. I would go at it from a personal standpoint and find a way to solve a problem for them. Whatever it is, even if it's outside your scope and it means more work. If you become the problem solver that makes their life easier, they are more likely to be receptive to helping you out and participate into your own initiatives because they'll trust you are not doing it out of self-interest. You're doing it for the organization as a whole, and they will believe that you will help them when time comes.
Mm-hmm. Just as a quick reminder for folks that are dialing in, again, thank you for participating with us today. We're a little more than halfway through our allotted time. If anyone does have additional questions or comments, feel free to use the chat box, and Alicia and I will pick those up and facilitate those with Susie. Another couple questions that are already in the queue here. One is about, and I love this topic, one is about this topic of hope. And there's a context provided here that they were breached about a year ago, and they've gone through a significant amount of refortifying their brand as well as their risk mitigation strategies. But one of the comments that is made here is that they're struggling by bringing about an aspect of hope that they can defend their organization and specifically their data. Can you talk, Susie, a little bit about the importance of hope, especially as a security officer for a major organization? Because, let's face it, you and your team, as well as probably most of the folks who are on the call that are focused on cybersecurity, you're under an incredible amount of pressure every single day. And we've always heard the phrase and sentiment that, we've got to be right all the time, and the attackers only need to be right one time in order to infiltrate into our data and gain access. Can you talk, and that can be extremely challenging and stressful. Can you talk about the importance of hope as a leader within a major organization?
Well, you're just going to get completely down and depressed if you never have hope and positivity in your life. It's a matter of when you're going to get breached. It's not a if. What's important to realize is how you show up when this happens. And have you done everything you could in order to help the organization avoid it? These are unavoidable. The impact of whatever happened to your organization in terms of breach, that you have more control around how bad it's going to be. And sometimes it's going to be really, really bad. You just have to own it. And how you show up as a leader through these type of breaches and incident, how you communicate, how you take responsibility for what is yours to take responsibility for, and how you articulate everything that was done to try to protect and prevent it from happening in the first place is something that will help you retain your job. There are more organizations, CISO now, that stay on after a breach that departs and get the so-called sacrificial lamb. 5 years ago, you had a breach, you're out, because the board, the stakeholder, the investor, they needed somebody to blame for it, and the CISO used to take that blame. In today's world, more and more CISOs stay on board, even though they might have had a massive breach. Because the world is coming up to terms that it's going to happen. It's just a matter of how bad it's going to be. So if you're proactive in helping your organization understand what you're doing to help mitigate those risks, get the message ready, get other stakeholders to realize they have a part to play in this whole thing, it's going to help you stay after. That positivity and hope is really crucial, because if you go at it with a defeatism attitude, or you go FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt, because it's easy. If you let stress get to you and you come out and lash out, you're just going to be very unhappy, and unhappy people are contagious, and that doesn't help influence and get work done across. Positivity, even just smiling through gritted teeth, is going to get you a lot more accomplished than losing hope. If you are going into the world of a CISO with the idea that you're going to be fired if something bad happens, that you can never be wrong, you're going to have a really bad time. There's a lot of power and leadership in vulnerabilities, and not being afraid to say, I don't know, I don't have all of the answer, but I will find them. And having humility. If you go at it with the shining armor that's never going to fail, well, you will fail at one point, and it's going to be a lot harder to recover from it. This is career-ending, industry-leaving activity if you go at it without hope and on a very negative mindset.
Yeah, mindset is one of the things that is covered in the academy and fits in so well. It's so powerful, negativity or positivity in the way in which not only you see the world, but the way in which that impacts and influences and is contagious with all of those that are around you. Speaking of all those that are around you, a question came in about talent sourcing and retention. And this may be a question you may or may not want to answer, Susie, but I'll ask it, and then you can decide how much information you want to provide, because it is specifically addressed to Finning. Does Finning International struggle with hiring and retaining employees? My organization it currently has a number of vacancies that we're looking to hire cybersecurity professionals, and we struggle with finding great, talented individuals. If you do struggle with that, can you share any strategies you're currently seeing as being positive? Or if you don't struggle with that, can you share some best advice for industries and organizations such as mine that are struggling with talent attraction and retention?
I'm okay answering it. It's no problem. I mean, we have, depending on the seniority and the type of role we are recruiting for in our geography, it can be difficult at times. The market can be competitive, and people are having their job, and there's just a finite number of individuals that could fill the role of a senior security architect. You need a little bit more exposure, business acumen, and technical knowledge in order to be one of our senior team members. Having said that, I'm a firm believer that your best pipe comes from inside. Trying to hire from the market for all senior role is a bit of a pipe dream, because there's only a finite number of individuals that are available, and everybody in your market is going to go after the same people. Grow them from inside. Pick up someone from your help desk that shows an interest in cybersecurity. Bring them on your stock as an entry-level analyst. Train them, grow them, coach them. Give them that first cybersecurity experience. I mean, I'm running out of fingers to count how many individuals to whom I've given their first chance in cybersecurity. There are so many individuals that want to break into our industry, and we're making it harder for them because we are requesting 5+ years of cybersecurity experience for a fresh open job that is very, very entry level. That's unrealistic. We have to change how we're hiring. We need not be afraid of taking someone with zero background from a technical perspective, but if they have the soft skills, that curiosity, that quick learning, quick study, desire to learn and make a difference, and they really want to be on the field, why do we prevent them from joining? Let's train them. And then you have engaged employees that want to stay with the organization and that are providing a lot of value. And as you train them and grow them, expose them to the network, so they might quit, which is okay because they could return back. They're going to bring more talent into your organization, and they're going to grow in those senior roles that you're going to need more of as the maturity of your program increase. So for super senior roles, we're no different. We're having some challenge like every other company, but we are tweaking our benefits, work styles, ability to work remotely, what they wear and dress in the office, how they communicate with peers. We're trying to use a lot of the intangible to attract and retain individuals to join our company's culture so that they feel they belong, they can make a difference, they are heard. And we are also attacking it from the bottom by bringing new talent in, converting a really strong NOC analyst or networking guy into a security role. And we've even went as far as transferring someone from our HR department into an entry-level SOC because she wanted to learn and do that. And she is really, really, really good now. So we have to address talent challenge differently. That is if we want to have the resource to deliver the work, and if we want to change the diversity profile of our organization and industry. We have to stop looking in the same place. We have to challenge a recruiter to do better. We need to change our expectation when we create job description. It's unrealistic to ask for 5 years of experience in something that existed only for 2. And we have to, I'm going to use the word settle, and that's more because I am not an Anglophone and I don't have the proper word for it. But we have to be realistic. It's probably best to have 2 really good intermediate entry-level individuals that come on board, provide value on the first day or very shortly after being hired, then hold on for 1.5 years to find that unicorn senior person. Because these 2 individuals, over that 1.5 years you took to get that new person in, are going to provide a lot more value than you being completely short-staffed because your expectations are unrealistic.
That's so insightful, and thank you for the detail. And that can often be a sensitive topic, especially when organizations are competing so vigorously in the market for great talent. And so thank you for the best advice and insights you have regarding how certain things are changing within Finning to better attract and retain great talent, as well as where some of the talent's coming from. It's great to see folks from HR coming in to cybersecurity and into the technology areas of the organization, and appreciate the kind of real-life case study at Finning regarding that. Another question came in, Susie, is this, and it says, as a female in the technology field, did you experience any gender bias on your path to the C-suite, and how did you overcome unconscious bias, no doubt that you faced, and increase your visibility within cybersecurity?
Well, that's a loaded one. Yes, like most women or even diversity candidate that might have a different skin color than the general area or the majority of people living in their area. It can be pervasive, it can be there, and it's how you decide to go against it. So I'm privileged I'm a middle girl of 2 brothers that were not girlifying me. They wrestled, they expected the same. So I've had the privilege of the upbringing of having a father that was very supportive of you can do whatever you want regardless of being a woman. and don't cut yourself short because you are not a man. So that shaped how I grew up and my belief in the world. I would be honest though, growing up through security, until I reached probably, I want to say 3 jobs ago, I thought it's for the other the problem. There's no glass ceiling, I can keep progressing, I can do it all. And other women had it wrong, but I was not one of them, which is full of rubbish. You needed a little bit of the self-awareness to come my way. And then as I kept progressing, I realized you can't be what you can't see. And if you only see 2 women that have the title you want in an entire country, you only think there's 2 spots for you. Well, there's all spots. You should not limit yourself to those that you have. And I feel it to be a responsibility today to help diverse candidate progress through the field, be an advocate for it, and be verbal, even though it's a little bit uncomfortable and at times could generate very politically charged type of conversation. Because we need to change it, and I can't just step back because it was easier for me because of my upbringing or a strike of locks or the way I work and the organization I chose. I need to pay back so that we can change the industry and put it to be reflective of what the world is and the customer we're serving. It's not 11% women and the rest being men. The world is more 50-50 with different color, genders, identification, and so on. So I feel responsible to change it. I have a zero tolerance for bad jokes, poor humor, sexism. I love to empower my teams to challenge it and not stand out for what's wrong. I am very privileged. I have a leader that has the opposite problem. He's recruited too many women and not enough men in one of my teams in cybersecurity. Because they bring their friends in and come work at Finning. They're inclusive, I'm heard, but now we need a little bit of the balance back. It's more important if a woman say it, it's going to have an impact. And I realized the higher I climbed, the stronger my voice was heard. But it's crucial for men to speak up too, because it has a stronger weight, unfortunately, than the woman if something is not right. And it's going to change, but we need the guys to stand up as well. And when they see something that's just not right, call them off. And it's going to start changing because I'm convinced there are many people on the phone that have daughters and they don't want their daughters to experience what I might have experienced going through the field of cybersecurity if that's their career of choice. So we need to all pitch in and change it. And it's unfortunate. I don't want to give details of everything that has happened, but it's not as rosy. And the latest one I could say is one of our employees went to DEFCON and Black Hat. And I remember when I first attended, I told her, never leave your drink unattended. And if you can, put a cap on it. Because it was that type of culture. I know it's changing, but it's changing slow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's great insight and great advice for us. And, I know one of the things that you had mentioned during our interview time together back 5 years ago, Susie, that all of our Academy folks have the privilege of learning from as they go through our program is, as you move up through the organization, there will be others that can possibly get in your way, not because they don't think you're capable, but because of their own self-doubt and their lack of self-efficacy of what they can accomplish. And you specifically say not to let someone else's self-doubt hold you back from accomplishing your goals and aspiring to accomplish more and more and more. And I think this is a perfect example, from anybody, men or women or anybody along your journey, not just in your career but in life. That if you are set out to do something, be focused on it and surround yourself with great people that can do that, and know that there will be people from time to time that, because of their self-doubt, can actually hold you back from accomplishing what you want to accomplish. But be prepared for that and recognize that can happen and work to overcome that. it's kind of these self-checks that we've got and reality checks that we have. And we got another question that just came in that pulls us back to the conversation about hiring. And Brian's asking here, how do we self-check to stay realistic in our hiring, not focusing on having the ivory tower for security, those 5 years of this, when in fact this has only been a problem for 2 years, or this technology has only been around for a couple of years. How do you at Finning, and how do you specifically within cybersecurity, do you have certain checks in place to make sure that there is a realistic areas of focus around the people that you're hiring, and it does allow for people from HR to come in to cybersecurity, as opposed to having this idealized team makeup and try to accomplish that, knowing that it is an ivory tower that may never get accomplished if we aren't a little bit more flexible. Do you have checks and kind of reality checks built in at Finning, or is it just something a little bit more kind of gut feel in terms of the way in which you recruit and how you attract and retain talent?
It's a little bit of column A and column B. So we work with recruiter, and we spend a lot of time with our internal recruiting team explaining what it is that we do, what we're looking for, and most of what we're looking for is softer skills, is not hardcore skills. We write our own job description as opposed to letting HR write those down. So we know exactly what we put inside of them, as opposed to having a third party that might not understand our context. For example, if we were to use the generic template for Finning, most of our employees would need to have a university degree, and we would favor engineer. But there's some really talented cybersecurity professionals that have a technical diploma and don't have a degree. And I don't want to stop someone that doesn't have a degree from progressing and go into leadership if they have all of the experience, know-how, and right attitude. I believe what helped me personally and is helping Finning is how I have hired the leader that also make hiring decision. From a cultural perspective, we use often what is reasonable and prudent, what's realistic here, and we've loved giving other people a chance to experience our world. Those rotations program have worked wonder in exposing inside the company non-techies to our world, and they culturally also value giving people their first chance and growing talent. What I've equipped myself with is individuals that yearn to grow superstar and grow talent, that really care about their people and want to see somebody with the right attitude and mindset, with the technical skills coming second. If I had equipped myself with leaders that were pedantic about education, coding language, technology, I might give you a different answer today. But I was privileged to recruit and equip myself with leaders that are thinking of human, that are thinking of what is going to get the job done and what is realistic, with extensive network, obviously across our region, that also help attract.
Yeah, it's great, and it's been so great spending the last hour with you, Susie. You had just mentioned, what it takes to recruit and attract and retain and develop superstars, and I think it takes a superstar to do that, and you certainly are a superstar. It's been great to have worked with you for so many years, and it's great to see you continue to progress and continue to make leaders better, which is really our mantra here as well at our academy. And it's because of that alignment and that shared mission and vision that have really allowed us to come together and do great work together. And we're just so proud of the great work that you're doing at Finning International, and we're so grateful for you to spend time with us and to share your thoughts and ideas and wisdom and know-how and lessons learned and experiences and your insights on leadership to our Academy participants and their supervising managers here today. On behalf of everyone at the Academy, Susie, we just want to say thank you. Thank you for your continued support and your continued work in making leaders better every day at Finning and across our Academy. And speaking about our academy and across our academy, just as a reminder for everyone here dialed in, Summer Crace-Fowler, the Chief Information Officer at Argo AI, will join us next month for our Executive Insights on Leadership. And so that will be for November 18th. The link is in the chat box if you want to copy that and paste it into your calendar. And I also want to let everyone know that, the Professional Development Academy is part of the Cyber Risk Alliance, a family of organizations focused on bringing individuals together, just as we're doing here on this webinar, to share best practices, to share insights on leadership and lessons learned. And if you are interested in participating in such things as InfoSec World or the Cybersecurity Collaboration Forum, or participating in and receiving media from SC Media or the Cybersecurity Collaborative, feel free to reach out to us at moderator@pdaleadership.com. We're happy to provide additional information on these organizations, and again, we're happy to be a part of the Cyber Risk Alliance family in that regard. Our next cohort of leaders are going to start in our cybersecurity program in January and our high performance program in January as well. If you're interested in enrolling, feel free to let us know. And again, Susie, thanks so much for your time today. So much appreciate you and our relationship and our friendship over the years. It's great to have you participate again here live to provide your leadership insights. Thank you, Susie. We really appreciate it.
Always a pleasure, Tim. You have a wonderful week.
You do the same, as to all of our participants today. Thank you, everyone, for joining us, and we'll see you again next month during our next Executive Insights on Leadership webinar. Thank you, and have a great week.